Every empire that ever tried to erase Iran made the same fatal miscalculation. They arrived with overwhelming force, Alexander's war machine, Rome's iron legions, Arab armies riding the momentum of a new faith, the Mongols, who measured conquest not in no-icon, territories seized, but in cities annihilated, who left pyramids of human skulls where capitals once stood. Any other civilization would have been finished, dissolved into history like the Babylonians, the Hittites, the Assyrians, peoples who once ruled the ancient world and then simply ceased to exist. But Iran did something no conquered civilization has ever done. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly across 5,000 years. It swallowed its conquerors whole. Within a generation of each invasion, the victors would find themselves speaking Persian, building Persian palaces, governing through Persian bureaucracy, wearing Persian robes. The civilization that lost every battle somehow won every war. The defeated became the template. How? How does a nation survive Alexander, Rome, the Arab Caliphate, and Genghis Khan, and emerge from each encounter not diminished but defined? How does a 5,000 years of continuous history voluntarily abandon one of the most legendary names in the ancient world and force every government on earth to call it something new? And why does that name, Iran, still ignite controversy today? This is the story of the civilization that invented linear time, transformed geopolitics into a cosmic battle between light and darkness, and mastered the art of losing in order to ultimately prevail. The Western world has a preferred origin story for civilization. It begins in Mesopotamia, Sumer, Babylon, or along the Nile. In that telling, Iran barely registers. It is a supporting character in someone else's story. That framing is historically dishonest. 50,000 years ago, Neanderthals inhabited the Iranian plateau. 36,000 years ago, early modern humans replaced them. And long before Mesopotamia dominated ancient history textbooks, something long before extraordinary was already developing here. Archaeological evidence from sites like the Giraffe culture and ancient ziggurats on Iranian territory has been dated to 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. Ceramic vessels from the 4th millennium before Christ place one of the oldest complex civilizations on the planet firmly on this soil, contemporaneous with Mesopotamia and China, not derivative of them. The first major power to emerge here was Elam, centered in the southwest of modern Iran with its capital at Susa. By the 26th century before Christ, the Elamites were powerful enough to dictate terms to the Sumerians. Then, in the 23rd century before Christ, something happened that has no precedent in recorded history. The Akkadian king Naram-Sin went to war with Elam. The conflict ended not with subjugation or slaughter, but with a written document, a formal treaty, guaranteeing Elamite independence in exchange for alignment with Akkad's foreign policy. The first international treaty in human history, signed on the Iranian plateau. The people we recognize as Iranians today arrived later, between the 20th and 15th centuries before Christ, nomadic tribes descending from the steppes of Central Asia and the Caucasus. They were part of the vast Indo-European family of peoples, their ancient language a direct ancestor of Latin, Greek, and every major European tongue spoken today, including English. They settled the plateau, absorbed the existing Elamite culture, and gave themselves a name, Aryans the Noble Ones. Their homeland they called Aryanem Vayaja, the land of the Aryans. Over centuries, that phrase compressed into a single word, Iran. These people split into powerful confederations. The most significant became the Medes and the Persians. And it was here, in these mountains and deserts, that the Iranians forged the weapon that would make them unconquerable. Not chariots, not cavalry, not any military technology at all. Ideology. Centuries before Christianity or Islam existed, a religion was born on this plateau that fundamentally restructured human consciousness. Zoroastrianism declared something that the ancient world had never heard before. The universe is not a cycle. It is a war, a total, uncompromising conflict between Ahura Mazda, the god of light, truth, and cosmic order, and Ahriman, the embodiment of darkness, deception, and chaos. This wasn't merely theology. It was a civilizational identity. The realm of darkness was identified with the nomadic wilderness to the north and east, the direction from which raids and invasions eternally came. To be Iranian was to be a warrior of light. Every dimension of Persian culture, poetry, law, statecraft, art, was built on the imperative to actively assist good against evil. The unity this gave the nation was extraordinary, but Zoroastrianism made an even larger contribution to human thought, one whose consequences are still shaping the world today. It declared that time is not circular. Time moves in one direction. The world had a beginning. It will have an end. A final battle between light and darkness, a purification, a last judgment of every soul. This idea entered the world through Iran. When the Persians conquered Babylon in the 6th century before Christ, they liberated the Jewish people from captivity there. Judea then spent 2 years celebrating that. The Persian equated their many such texts, thinkers absorbed the Zoroastrian architecture of history, linear time, the coming of a Messiah, the end of days, final judgment. That framework later became structural to both Christianity and Islam. The philosopher Nietzsche acknowledged this directly. Iran was the civilization that discovered linear time, the conceptual coordinates within which all subsequent human thought has operated. The first superpower. The first great Aryan state was Media, founded around 670 before Christ. The Medes achieved something remarkable. They destroyed the Assyrian Empire, the most feared military power of the ancient Near East, before being eclipsed by their own kinsmen. In 550 before Christ, a man named Cyrus, half Persian, half Mede, united both peoples under a single banner and began constructing something history had never seen, the Achaemenid Empire, the first true superpower. Cyrus was unlike any conqueror before him. Where previous rulers destroyed the temples of conquered peoples and enslaved their populations, Cyrus protected them. He governed through respect, rather fug, than terror. His successor, Darius II, expanded the empire's boundaries from Egypt to the Indus Valley, placing nearly 50 million people, roughly half the world's population at the time, under Darius was intriguing in numbers, under Persian authority. Darius divided the empire into 20 administrative provinces called satrapies. He introduced a standardized tax system, minted the world's first gold coins, and built road networks, so efficient that his imperial postal service was the fastest communication system on Earth. The empire appeared invincible. Then Cyrus himself made one fatal overreach. He ventured deep into Central Asia to fight the subjugate tribe, a campaign aimed at securing the empire's northern frontier from nomadic darkness. The battle was catastrophic. The Persian army was destroyed. According to Herodotus, the subjugate queen Tamaris, avenging the death of her captured son, ordered her soldiers to find the body of Cyrus. She severed his head and plunged it into a leather bag filled with human blood. Her words, "You thirsted for blood. Now, drink your fill." The empire mourned, and then continued without him. Here's a story the West has been telling itself for centuries, and getting wrong. The Greco-Persian Wars, 300 Spartans, the Battle of Marathon, the naval victory at Salamis, are presented as the moment Greek civilization defeated Persian tyranny. That is a Western narrative written by Western historians. From the perspective of the Achaemenid Empire, the Greek campaigns were a peripheral concern. Losing a few frontier cities on the far western edge of a 50 million person empire was a minor inconvenience. The Persians recalibrated and deployed their most effective weapon, money. They began funding Athens, then Sparta, methodically financing the Greek city-states against each other until both sides saw exhausted. In 387 before Christ, a drained Greece was compelled to sign a humiliating peace agreement on the Persian king Artaxerxes' terms. What Persian armies couldn't conquer, Persian gold purchased. The genuine catastrophe arrived from a different direction. The empire had grown too vast for its administrative structures to hold. A young Macedonian king identified the fault lines and drove directly through them. In 330 before Christ, Alexander's phalanxes shattered the Persian army and burned Persepolis, the symbolic heart of the empire, to the ground. The 1,000-year story of Iran appeared to be over. It wasn't. From the ruins of the Achaemenid Empire, a Greek Hellenistic state arose, the Seleucid Empire, governed by Alexander's successors, committed to spreading Greek culture across the ancient world. and quietly, methodically, Iran began to digest it. Alexander himself had already started the process before his death, adopting Persian court dress, observing Persian royal protocol, integrating Persian nobles into his administration. The policy of Hellenization kept running into something it couldn't overwrite, a civilization older and more deeply rooted than anything Greece could offer as a replacement. In the 3rd century before Christ, the Parthians, an Indo-Iranian people from the northeastern frontier, expelled the Greeks entirely. Their king proclaimed himself King of Army, deliberately claiming the ancient Achaemenid title as his own. For 5 centuries, the Parthian Empire held the Roman Empire at bay, defeating Roman legions repeatedly across the Middle East. In 224 AD, the Sasanian dynasty rose from Pars, the original Persian heartland, and built the most centralized and powerful Iranian state since the Achaemenids. For nearly 400 years, Sasanian Iran fought Rome and then Byzantium to a standstill, but 4 centuries of war drained the empire completely. By the mid-7th century, the Sasanian colossus was hollow at the core. In 651, the Persian capital fell. The last Sasanian Shah was murdered. All of Iran came under Arab rule. The Arabs brought Islam and a new language, Zoroastrianism. The faith that had powered Iranian identity for millennia began to recede. Every other civilization the Arabs conquered was eventually absorbed completely. Egypt became Arab, Syria became Arab. Both remain so today. Iran had other plans. The military defeat was total. The cultural response was surgical. The Islamic Caliphate, particularly under the Abbasid dynasty, found itself unable to function without Persian administrators, Persian scholars, Persian poets, and Persian methods of style. Governance. Arab caliphs adopted Persian statecraft as a practical necessity. The Persian language not only survived, but thrived. The greatest scientific and literary achievements of the Islamic Golden Age were produced in Farsi. The language outlived every empire that attempted to replace it. Then came something worse than any army. In 1220, Genghis Khan descended from the Central Asian steppe. The Mongols did not wage conventional war. They conducted systematic annihilation, slaughtering entire cities, demolishing thousand-year-old irrigation systems that could never be fully rebuilt. The death toll was so immense that Iran's population may not have fully recovered for centuries. It genuinely seemed, this time, that the civilization was finished. When Genghis Khan's grandson Hulo established the Ilkhanate on Iranian soil, something happened that defies simple explanation. The conquerors who had destroyed everything, who had no tradition of settled civilization, who lived in felt tents and measured wealth in horses, converted to Islam. They made Persian the official language of their state. They commissioned magnificent blue-domed mosques in the Persian style. They funded Iranian scholars and poets. At the end of the 14th century, Tamerlane swept in and repeated the atrocities, towers of skulls in every conquered city, while simultaneously transporting Iran's finest artisans to his capital in reverent admiration. His descendants, the Timurids, triggered a full Persian cultural renaissance, transforming their courts into centers of miniature painting and poetry of extraordinary refinement. For 300 years, Mongols and Turks held political power over Iran. Every single ruling dynasty, within a generation or two of taking the Iranian throne, had been completely absorbed. They had become Persian. The conquered civilization had reprogrammed its conquerors again and again and again. In 1501, Shah Ismail emerged from this 3-century crucible and united the country under the Safavid dynasty. His most consequential act was establishing Shia Islam as Iran's official state religion, permanently distinguishing it from the Sunni Ottoman world surrounding it on every side, constructing yet another layer of identity that no invasion could easily dissolve. But the modern era brought new predators who didn't come with armies. By the 19th century, under the Qajar dynasty, devastating wars with Russia stripped Iran of the territories now known as Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, permanently. By the early 20th century, the country had become a geopolitical chessboard for the British and Russian empires. The British extracted oil from the south. Russian troops occupied the north. The Soviet Union eventually attempted to establish a communist republic on Iranian soil. The country was being dismembered from outside while decaying from within. In 1925, Reza Shah Pahlavi seized power in a military coup and launched a forced modernization campaign. Then, in 1935, he did something that reverberated through every foreign ministry on earth. For centuries, the Western world had called this country Persia, a name derived from a Greek mispronunciation of one regional province, carrying connotations of exoticism and comfortable backwardness. Reza Shah sent a formal directive to every embassy. The country's name is Iran. It has always been Iran. You will use it. This was not housekeeping. It was a declaration of existence. We are not your romanticized myth. We are not your oil field. We are a sovereign civilization 5,000 years old, and you will address us on our own terms. Decades of Cold War manipulation and foreign interference finally ignited the Islamic Revolution of 1979. The monarchy collapsed. Iran became a theocratic republic and severed its relationship with the West. Today, a strange paradox exists in the global imagination. Mention Iran, and most people picture geopolitical tension, international sanctions, and conflict. Mention Persia, and those same people picture something mythological, flying carpets, ancient grandeur, the romance of a lost four figures old in age. Two names, one land, an unresolved argument about who gets to define what this civilization means. Over 5,000 years, Iran developed something no other civilization has managed to replicate. A cultural immune system so powerful that it transforms invaders rather than being transformed by them. Macedonians, Arabs, Mongols, none of them could digest Iran. Iran digested them. It stood at the founding moment of human diplomacy, planted the conceptual seeds of three of the world's major religions, and built the first empire in history governed by something resembling a philosophy of human dignity. But the most consequential battle may be the one unfolding right now, because the deepest wars are rarely fought with weapons. They are fought over memory, over the right to define, on your own terms, what your history means and who you are today. That war has no end date in sight.
Ready to unlock something amazing? You don't want to miss what's next. Every like, every comment, and especially every share helps us create more jaw-dropping content just for you. So hit that subscribe button right now to join our incredible community.